So welcome to today's video. Today's video is on a blog post that I wrote recently regarding dismissing your case on purpose in bankruptcy. Why would you do that? What's the logic in that? When you've actually gone through the trouble of filing for bankruptcy, maybe paying a lawyer for bankruptcy to all of a sudden say, I'm not moving any forward on this case, it really depends on the fact scenario. The first thing I'm going to tell you is if you file Chapter 7 and you're dismissing it because now maybe there's assets that are not protected, and hopefully the lawyer didn't make this mistake, then there's malpractice issues. But if that's the case, chances are the trustee is going to object because obviously the trustee has a financial incentive. Up to 25% trustees make off the bankruptcy estate, which is basically all the assets, and then the assets that are not protected, that belongs to the bankruptcy estate. Trustee sells off those assets and they keep a percentage. The money that they are able to recoup, that gets paid towards your creditors, right? Your unsecured creditors, etc. But why would you dismiss it in a Chapter 7 case? It really depends on the scenario. Again, if the assets are not exempt, there's going to be a problem. But one simple reason is you might have just been trying to buy time. You were facing foreclosure and you wanted to buy a little more time. Maybe you're not even planning on selling the house, but let's say you are. And a lot of times what happens is clients get frustrated because they're saying, I've been negotiating with the bank all this time and they've yet to approve a mortgage modification. Why is there a foreclosure, and why are they ready to wrap up the foreclosure and sell my house? Well, it's very simple. Which is the bank? Is it a small bank, or is it a huge banking conglomerate like Wells Fargo? If it's a Wells Fargo, Bank of America, these enormous banks and firms, the left hand has no idea what the right hand is doing. And so unfortunately that happens. And it could be the situation where you already got the buyer. The buyer's ready to go. The closing, all the documents were signed. The closing is going to be in 3 weeks, but your foreclosure is in 2 days. What do you do now? Chances are you're not going to be able to get a hearing in time. If you're able to schedule a hearing way in advance, then yeah, the lawyer for the bank will say, yeah, that is true. Let's delay this foreclosure for 2 months. And if they sell the house, then the problem takes care of itself. But let's say you couldn't get there, then what happens is you have to file for bankruptcy to save time so that you can go ahead and buy this deal. Now, the problem is if you're in bankruptcy, you can't sell your house, but you're trying to sell your house. Bankruptcy is just one way to do that. And I've written blogs on that before on how you can use bankruptcy to sell your house, which is basically that you're buying time. So how do you dismiss your case? Well, you could file a motion, or you could simply just not appear at the 341 meeting. When you don't show up, the trustee is going to dismiss the case. They lose jurisdiction. The sale of the house moves forward, and you're done. Very simple. Now, why would you do that in Chapter 13? Same reason. Could be the sale of the house, right? You have the house, you're ready to sell it, but you're in the middle of a Chapter 13. You have two options. You can go to the court, file a motion, and say, here's this motion. I'm selling the house. Everyone's going to get paid. We're good. And that's way number one. Way number two, stop making payments, right? When you stop making payments, the trustee is going to move to dismiss your house eventually, or dismiss your case, and then you can sell your house that way. Or you can actually file a motion for a voluntary dismissal. The idea is you're going to use the sale proceeds from the home to go ahead and pay off all your debt. But what about if you don't want to pay off all your debt? Think about that. This is another way, another reason to dismiss your case, and it might save you money. Let's say you're in the unsecured portion of the plan. Now, what I mean by that is you're just paying like what's the unsecured, the credit cards and things like that. Maybe you filed for bankruptcy to save your home, and you're behind 10 months, you're already caught up, and now you're just paying off those credit cards, right? It really depends on what the numbers are, but potentially let's make up some numbers. Let's make it simple. One creditor is going to get paid back $10,000, and they're getting this at $100 a month. Does a creditor feel like waiting every single month to get a little $100 and knock it off the total balance? The creditor is like everyone else. I'd rather you give me 50% would be great, but I'll take 30%. If you owe me 10 grand and you're like, I'm going to give you $100 a month and you're not going to squeeze a dollar more out of me, or I give you 3,000 right now, I'll take the 3,000. I can do a lot more damage financially with 3 grand in my pocket right now than I can with $100. $100 a month isn't going to affect my life in any way. And so it's the same thing with creditors. If you're in that unsecured portion of the plan, you could go to creditors and say, all right, dismiss your case, because if you're in bankruptcy, you can't really negotiate with them. It can't happen. The plan's already been approved by the court. So keep that in mind. But if you get the case dismissed, you can now go back to every creditor and say, what do I owe you? I owe you $5,000. I'll tell you what, I'll offer you $2,500 today. Remember, if you have the sale of the home, why not? You just saved $2,500, right? Do that 5 times. Think about how much money you're saving now. 4 times is 10 grand, so $12,500. You just put more into your pocket. And the creditor, same thing. They might be losing a little bit of money, but the creditor is thinking, I get 50% now, 30%. I mean, you could try for a 30% ratio, would be a good deal. But it's a good reason to dismiss your case, because you found an opportunity to save money. You have the chance now to sell your home, and wiping out $12,500 from this overall debt is obviously a good thing. So keep that in mind. Sometimes you want to dismiss your case on purpose. If you're in a Chapter 13, excuse me here. If you're in a Chapter 13, um, and you are paying that unsecured portion and you do have a home, think about it. Go to your lawyer and say, hey, listen, can we pull this off? Can we dismiss the case so that I can go ahead and offer less to these creditors? Or maybe just sell the house as part of the whole process, and wipe out all the debt at once. So that you do have a couple of options, but now you see how dismissing your case on purpose might make some sense. Okay. Any questions or comments, feel free to post them in the comment section below. And I'll catch you guys at the next video. Take care of yourselves.